Perfect. All right. So thanks everybody for being here. I'm Daniel Lindenberger. I'm coming from the Fraser Lowland on the unceded territory of the Kwantlen Katzie. And will start out in a second by going through a great grounding exercise that Ellen is bringing to us. And then we can kind of go over the agenda and dive into the other pieces. But Ellen, feel free to take it away.
Hello. I'd like to say I'm coming from the S'Klallam land of the Salish tribes from the Dungeness Bay. And I'm just going to do a little grounding presence exercise that involves a little bit of movement. And everybody feel free to just watch, do it with me, do it big, do it small. So we just start with a couple of breaths. Breathe in and breathe out anything you don't need to be with you at this meeting. And breathe in and exhale. And now brush off anything that's left over that may have stayed inside of your body and does not need to be present with us at this meeting. And go inward. Give yourself a real tight inward hug, grounding in everything you want to bring with you. And then bring it out, reaching out to the world, to all of us, bringing it all in. And just to be sure it's gone, do a little bit of shaking, head, tail wiggling here. And we're going to shake our head yes. And no, remembering that we can be authentic and true, and this is a safe place. And roll your shoulders out in relaxation. And we're just going to go down our body. So check in with your head, shoulders, arms and elbows, hands, belly, pelvis, hips, legs, including your knees and calves and ankles and feet. Feel the ground underneath you. And just lift your right body side up and down a little bit. Get some brain balancing, brain hemisphere balancing going on here. And the other side. And we're going to do just a little bit of cross lateral, cross in for a big hug. Open out to a big hug to the universe. Cross yourself for a big self hug. Open up to a big universe hug. And let yourself rock back and forth to get your vestibular center going. Be careful not to get too dizzy. And hands on your thighs. And just take a couple more breaths here. And thank you for participating in a grounding brain dance with me. Welcome to our meeting.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Ellen. I'm feeling reinvigorated and grounded and glad to be here with all you amazing people. Next, we're just going to see if there's any questions, or take about 10 minutes in case there's questions or things people want to surface from our last webinar. I'll post a link here to a Google Doc that I've prepped. That this simply is a bit of an outline if you're needing a reminder of what exactly we went over. It also is hyperlinked to the different parts of the webinar in case you're wanting to check those out. But that's more just there as a reference. And why don't we just do this kind of in a popcorn style? We'll try that out. So if anybody has anything, feel free to throw it into the circle.
I've been thinking lately about like where are the Goldilocks areas of our bioregion for us to focus building regenerative communities in. So as opposed to doing everything everywhere, I feel like the reality of our timeline of actually having effective action is fairly small when you look at how much needs to be done in this regards. So, anyway, so that's just something that I've been sitting with, and I don't know if the community's been looking at that yet, just because I'm new to the conversation, so I'm not sure what work has been done already. So just, sir, that's coming up for me, so I'm just bringing that forward. And thank you all for welcoming me into the circle.
I know for me, the whole water theme has been really, really evocative. Talk about the different sort of the channels and the streams of the work that we're doing, of our own lives, of the ways that water unblocks and purifies and cleanses and flows, has really been getting me thinking a lot about how we do our organizing, both geospatially and just in terms of community and process here in the Fraser Lowland. So I've been really finding water such a rich place to start from. Yeah, go ahead, Denise.
I've also been thinking a lot about that, and I was talking with Bridget, my housemate. She's not here today, but she's also part of this group. About I know that we're going to be doing randomized breakouts, and what I would love to do is to do topic-based breakouts so that we can start to create. Like there are people on this call that are working on housing, and I'd really like to talk to those folks. And I'm also interested, of course, in it's like housing is living, and that's kind of connected to a lot of things. And so I would love to do like affinity-based breakouts soon to kind of address Misha's question, like what's already happening instead of like we are not starting from zero. Um, Anybody that's here is it's probably not starting from zero. You've been thinking about it, and there's creativity in that. And so I'd love to hear, where people are, and kind of to move this work forward. Thank you.
No, I love that idea. I could even see doing an open space sort of an approach to something like that would be really lovely sometime or other. And I just want to quickly underscore, and then I'll hop to you, Claire. Just that piece of like looking around at the Zoom, at the people here, and just recognizing the extraordinary wisdom and experience and activity that is represented in this room, and being excited to look at how do we best bring that forward and learn from each other and find those collaborations. Yeah, Claire, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of catch this in because I saw there was some dialogue happening in the design school that I know I put, and I'm trying to think who it was that raised the question, but they were asking about mapping the damage, like where are the areas of contamination, especially as it relates to watersheds, and what work has been done. And I had just been to it was a screening of, God, I can't remember what it's called, something about the salmon and water. Anyway, I'll think about the name of the film. But the lawyer who was working on the Fraser River with looking at contamination and the salmon returns. And the thing that just was shocking was they said the last time there was any kind of a look at the water quality for the Fraser River as a whole system was like in 1993. It was like, if you're not checking it, there's no way you can even know how to manage it. So it just felt like it brought up a whole bunch of stuff. I love the dialogue that's happening in the design school and just find that a rich place sometimes for taking what sparks further. But yeah, just that question of, who's mapping the damage, and actually how do we start to organize around that? So that was another question that's coming up for me directly out of the water dialogues.
Thanks, Claire. Anna, go ahead, please.
Sure. I was posting this in the chat, but I realized I should maybe say it. Sorry for being on video. I'm really sick today, so I'm like sitting here in my bathrobe. But I thought Mish, that was a really awesome point, and I just wanted to provide like my thoughts on it, which is that like what is sort of the low-hanging fruit or most strategic place to focus on organizing regenerative community really depends on like what specific aspect of that process we're talking about, right? Like if we're talking about bioremediating watersheds, that might be different places. And if we're talking about building local economic democracy or localizing and sort of building more sustainable local food webs and food production, if we're talking about restoring, you know, extremely degraded timberlands, if we're talking about where are the laws and zoning most amenable to sustainable or regenerative architecture, you know, like those are all really different, like the answers may be really different depending on which topic we're talking about. So I think like figuring out what we personally feel called to is such an important process of like, there's this natural exchange between us and the ecosystem in terms of like where our passion sparks. So like if you're somebody who's like, hell yeah, I want to build earth domes, you know, like that may be a different place to focus on than if you're like, hell yeah, I want to do microremediation. So that's just my 2 cents there.
Yeah, thank you. Amazing point. And especially how we, as those side channel kind of conversations and work go on, how we surface those and sort of do kind of collective sense making and learn from each other as we're diving into all of the different myriad topics we will be. Yeah, Jen, go ahead.
Nice. Just as we were coming in, I got into my name and changed it from where I had Salish Sea down before. I've just moved into the interior again to where the Kootenai River joins the Columbia. And the Columbia, there was just been very recently some meetings regarding the Columbia River treaties, which had been worked on for years and years, and it's many people in this community are very impacted by that. For some reason, I'm going in and out of blur for some reason, but anyway, here I am. But and that's sort of a state of my health, I think, too. And so it really highlights the issue of our ridiculous nation-state border that cuts right across that river because we're in such Canada, US are in such delicate situation and in terms of many things right now. And after many, many years of negotiating between the two countries regarding the river and how the dams have been set up and how the flows and the prevention of flooding further south and the use of power on the dams has been such an intense international agreement. And then recently the US has stopped their aspect of being part of those agreements. So, I mean, there's the story of a river, and it really highlights the need for understanding ourselves as being part of this whole river, because, you know, for the Willamette Valley, for example, it used to be flooded because of the river. And so dams were built so that flooding wouldn't be happening, but the dams were built up in this area, and so the water's been backed up. And so there's just all those things of how do we understand this in a different way than has been understood. And it's totally impacted the salmon and the indigenous people in this area. So I just was wanting to bring that story forth into our awareness of Cascadia, but also our awareness of water and the essence of that, the old story and the modern story and how they're coming together, and the issues around that.
Thank you. No, that's really rich. Ben, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I was just adjusting my volume.
Yes.
But I think on the topic, I think Anna said it really well. Mishi brought it up. Like, there's so many things to do, and like this group is so great to be part of, to kind of feel that you're not alone. But then, and you echo and reinforce the language, you echo and reinforce the culture. You start beginning to frame out all these little nests or, you know, seeds of regenerative work, if you will, that are everywhere. And then ultimately say, but what do I do? Right. And then it's like, okay, what am I called towards? What are my skills? What lights me up? Like right now when I'm speaking, my whole body starts to tingle. That tells me My ancestors are speaking through me. They want me to go this way. And so for me, like, that was a really important step, is to do a lot of that inner work, so that you digging down and rooting to yourself. And as you root to place, and as your story starts to come out, and you know with confidence, something tells you you're doing that with confidence, and it starts weaving, if you will, with the local stories around you, and that community starts to manifest locally. And that's kind of, I guess, what I wanted. I mean, Anna, you said it really nicely. Mish, you framed up the whole question, and this group at a bioregion world level, right? I mean, a lot of us are in the Cascadia, cohort, but this is a global group. So you start learning what the language is, the universal language, right? And then you start going from everything and holding both everything and the innermost sacred space of yourself. And then you start kind of threading that together, both from the top, if you will, or all down, but also from the inner space up and out. And I just think that that's such an important thing to hold, because you otherwise it's very disorienting, and you don't really realize, am I being successful? Am I not? You are where you are supposed to be. You are enough. You are doing what you need to be doing. Just keep, and I don't like say leaning in, because I prefer to lean out, so that I can hold, so I can hold it, because it is a holistic thing. It's not a linear thing. It's not one way is the right way. So yeah, that's, I guess, what I wanted to say, even though I didn't really raise my hand.
No, that was really delicious, and all of the different flows you were talking there is a nice full circle for kind of thinking about the water theme that we've just been kind of going on. Knowing that there's loads of other things that we can be kind of bringing forward from that, we're going to move now into group updates. So for any groups, if you have anything that you'd like to share, now is a perfect time. I'll give about 15 minutes for doing this. I'll give some quick updates from Fraser Lowland. I'll throw in the chat here just some notes on it. But so again, Fraser Lowland is sort of from West Vancouver over to Hope, down into Bellingham, which I love that it's a cross-national eco section that we're looking at here. So we have just started and are making our way along with High-Low. It's great to have Heather and some other folks who are in there who are beginning to work on things together. Folks are welcome to join in there if they like. And any groups who are in a region within that space especially, who want to hook up and look at how we can collaborate between the different regions in that area would be wonderful. We'll be having our second quarterly day-long event, probably in mid-June in Coquitlam. So for anybody who's wanting to join for that, definitely feel free. Claire, it was so lovely having you at our last time. It felt really, really deep and engaging. So looking forward to seeing what happens at our next one. Working with Heather and a couple of the people from Fraser Lowland, we've begun work on a carrying capacity kit, which is meant to be a set of worksheets and actions and dialogues and checklists and myriad things that a region can use to start thinking about what is their carrying capacity for their region, and in doing so, connect more to the land and connect more to each other. We're also beginning some work on eco-quests, which is a way to have people come to a specific locale that is ecologically significant within the region, learn a little bit about it, do a little bit of work that helps move the needle on what's going on there, and then break bread together and have some time to simply share and connect around place. We are also going to be starting next week having our first call with some folks to talk about how we work with bioregional data in the area. This first call is going to be a small introductory one, but my hope is that if that one goes well, we'll be having further calls around that. And of course, anyone from Regenerate Cascadia who's interested in participating in that conversation is welcome. Finally, it looks like we're going to be starting a liminal house, which is kind of, it's adjacent but relevant to mention here, in September, bringing people together who are looking at how can they be working on the work that they are called to do within the region and globally, in a way that is not about having to maximize income, and setting up a place where you have good people to support and bounce ideas off of and be with, living together in a house. So that's all that's coming out of Fraser Lowland. I'll step back, and any other regions or areas that want to share what you're up to, feel free. Anna, go ahead.
Sure. If Jonathan's on the call, feel free to jump in on my behalf, but I didn't see him here, so I just wanted to plug that next weekend, Easter weekend, there's sort of a budding group of Regenerate Siskiyou County, which is the Mount Shasta area, the very, very, very southern tip of Cascadia in Northern California. And at Hotlam Eco Regeneration Camp, there's a water stories workshop next weekend on low-tech erosion mitigation and prevention on burned landscapes, which is probably pretty relevant to most of us in this bioregion. So just plugging that on Jonathan's behalf. I will be there with my van if anyone wants to hang out.
Very cool. Thank you so much. And I'll mention here that Denise has put into the chat that Outgrow the System. There's going to be a film screening for that May 2nd in Seattle, and there's a link there if you're wanting more information around that. Julie, go ahead.
It's inspiring to start with such a well-developed hub there you've got with, how's it pronounced again? Kalamazoo.
Well, it's Fraser Lowland. That's just
Oh, okay. Fraser Lowland. Yeah. The Olympic Peninsula is going to have its first in-person meeting, hybrid with Zoom for people who can't be there on Saturday. And so we don't have anything yet. We don't have a vision. We don't have anything. I'm actually kind of nervous and trying to calm myself. That's how we begin. We just get together. The other thing I want to say is that Brian's here. He's on the board of Northwest Permaculture, and I'm the communications officer. And I did post on our website the Outgrow the System film screening. And anyone who has anything, feel free. I love to distribute both on Northwest Permaculture's website newsletter and also Regenerate Cascadia. I can help get that on the website and maybe even the newsletter. So reach out to me to distribute your events and activities. Thanks.
amazing. Thanks, Julie. Best of luck with that first Zoom meeting. If you're ever wanting to nerd out around processes getting started. Oh, Claire, go ahead. You're muted.
Sorry, I've got to head out, but I just wanted to, I realized just in the upcoming Bioregional Earth newsletter that'll come out on Saturday, there's a really big update from the work we're going to be doing for the Hub Cultivator and the program coming ahead to support communities. So just wanted to alert people to watch out for that. We're quite excited about what that lays out. So
Amazing. Thanks so much. Bye, Claire. Glad you could join. And yeah, Julie, if you ever want to chat about getting going, Fraser Lowland, we're also just in that early stage of figuring things out. So it's always great. And I'm sure others are also keen to support and learn together. But yeah, the fact that you're just getting people together who are passionate about it, guaranteed good things are going to come from that. Andrea, go ahead.
Hey everyone, thanks. I actually don't have my camera with me, so apologies for that. And thank you for being flexible and joining this call. I just wanted to give a couple updates for Northern Willamette Valley, the team that's organizing out of the Portland area. We're collaborating really closely with the Southern Willamette Valley team, and we're really inspired. We were really inspired by the webinar on Tuesday around water and how to organize around water. And we're planning an eco-regional listening tour now that is following the Willamette River from the headwaters to the confluence with the Columbia River. And I'm just feeling really alive about that and really excited about the possibilities there. At the beginning of the tour, we're going to be doing a little bit of a very mild rafting tour near the headwaters. And then at the end, we're going to do a kayak tour that will look at the Willamette River and all of the sacredness that is, but also really hold the grief that is the critical energy infrastructure hub, which is huge oil tanks being stored on the water, basically. And talk about all of the activism being done around that. So I'm feeling really excited and inspired, and that will be happening at the beginning of September. So I will post more information about that as the dates go live. Thanks all.
Oh, that sounds so exciting. Thank you. I'll also just footnote here that that Anna has posted that April 18th to 20th, low-tech erosion mitigation workshop going on at Hotlam Eco Regeneration Camp. So do check out and check in with her around that. I'll also highlight that next session, Brandon Lutzinger will be presenting on spoke-style participatory governance and open space facilitation, and Andrew will be presenting on onboarding practices. Corey, go ahead.
Yeah, this is an update actually from the design school. This came out of the Bioregional Leaders Guild. I'm holding space for the deep dive Bioregional Organizers Leaders Guild, and our first deep dive is this coming Monday. And so just to put that out there, I'll put the link here in the chat. Maria Angel is going to be talking about how to manage the English Channel as a bioregion and historical wounding. So it's going to be very interesting. And perhaps when I think of the Salish Sea and the big waters around us, interested to hear, learn from her and the conversation. So maybe I'll see you there. It's 11 o'clock on Monday. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Corey. Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm still trying to navigate on the phone, but I just want to give an update on, we had a permaculture meetup end of last month, and we had a nice little cohort of folks from our area, Whatcom and Skagit counties, and a little tour and socializing, and then sat down and talked about our roles and possibilities. And there were some new people there, so just kind of filled them in about what Regenerate Cascadia is, and ways we're thinking about activating our region and possible events that we may hold in the future. And then I wanted to announce that coming up on May 3rd, there's an amazing event that happens here in Bellingham that's called Procession of the Species. And it's a really fun all family event of people getting together in animal costumes and just kind of parading through town. So it's just a fun celebration of life and our ecosystem that we steward and live in. And then on May 4th, I am hosting it's International Permaculture Week that was started in Australia. So every year I do an event for International Permaculture Week. And so I'll be doing it on Sunday, May 4th. And that'll be another time we can get together here in this region. So yeah, that's great. Just listening in mostly. It's good to hear everybody's contributions, and thanks y'all for being here.
Amazing. Thanks so much. Julie, we saw you were already processing as various species right there. So wonderful. Denise, go ahead.
She's ready. I wanted to let folks know next Saturday is the planning session for the BioFi Conference Summit that's coming up in May. I'll put the post. You probably already got it from Brandon. If he were here, he would be making this announcement. So since he's not, I'm making it for him. So the planning meeting is the Saturday the 19th on Capitol Hill in Seattle. And then the summit is coming up May 16th through 18th.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Denise. David, go ahead.
Hey, everybody. Just to follow up on what Brian said for the Regenerate Whatcom area. Yeah, nice to have a meetup at Brian's Inspiration Farm recently. I had to leave before that final discussion, so I'm sorry I missed that. I wanted to share that Earth Day is coming up on April 22nd. That's a week from the next Tuesday. And I'm planning to do some tabling. There's going to be an event in Bellingham at Bellingham Unitarian Fellowship. It's being hosted by some others, but I'm going to be tabling there just to kind of try to get the word out about Regenerate Whatcom, have people, just an opportunity for people to sign up on our mailing list, and I'll probably try to create some kind of little flyer or something to share with those people. And hopefully we can have maybe set up a Zoom call before the next in-person gathering that Brian was just mentioning in May. So still a lot of like just organizing details to pull together. I did put into the chat a draft vision and mission statement. It's kind of like just working model of what to say for vision and mission, and go ahead and look that over. Any input would be welcome. Maybe it's something you could borrow for your own region to start with anyway.
Amazing. Thanks so much, David. Just doing a quick sweep to see if there's anybody else who hasn't been raising a virtual hand but has something that they want to update from their group. Looks like maybe not. I just want to take a moment and bask in the amazing set of activity that is going on throughout the region. Thanks to everybody for sharing what's going on. It's easy to not feel alone in doing the work when you see so many people doing so many extraordinary things. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about sociocracy. I'm going to start by just talking about sociocratic gestures. I know some different groups are sort of looking at sociocracy as a way of potentially doing things. I'm going to be going over a little bit of sort of an overview of sociocracy, some of the basic kind of principles, some of the texture of how some of the things go for the next little bit of time. And then I won't be talking about how we operationalize it as much, but Andrew's going to be talking next time, I think, around a little bit of that, about how would you actually do a meeting in kind of a sociocratic process. As I go, feel free to stop me for questions if there's things that are coming up that people are wanting to dive into further, and we'll just kind of get through as much material as feels most relevant to people. So starting with gestures, frequently, you'll be sitting in circle or on a Zoom call doing that. Also, just I'll quickly highlight Jeff. Go ahead. So that Jeff was just seeing if there's other folks from Whidbey Island who'd be interested in doing a real world meeting. Maybe ping Jeff there, and we can see if we can get something going with that. So
we're already real world meeting. I'm just trying to see if there's anybody here. I don't think there is.
Okay.
But we've met in real life a lot. So, but I don't think anybody else has made it here yet. That's what I was trying to find out. Thank you.
So for sociocratic gestures, this is a kind of a way when votes are going on. A thumbs up generally just means no objection. One tends to not go on at great length about yes, I support this in such ways. It's just no objection. There tends to be something like this for I have a concern. A concern isn't a veto, it isn't a block, it isn't even an objection. It's simply saying either there's something that maybe we want to be considering, or there's something there. The something isn't sitting quite right in my gut. I don't know what it is yet, but there's something that we maybe need to think about with this. But that doesn't stop a proposal going through in a consent process. And then an objection is, in consensus, often an objection is a thumbs down. In sociocracy, it's a hand out usually, palm raised. And part of that is to remind people that objections are gifts to the group. Anytime that there's an objection, that's somebody saying there's something we really need to consider in order to go a direction that works well for everybody. And we'll talk later about like what is an objection, a principled objection especially, or a reasoned objection. But those three gestures are frequently used within sociocracy when one is looking to see what the kind of will of the group is, whether that's in a formal consent round or whether that simply is doing a bit of an energy check around things. I think I had said it, but as I go, do feel free to interrupt me, ask questions, raise hand, if there's pieces that you're wanting to dive into further, and we can. Although for some parts I may say, I don't know, or other parts I'll say, probably that's something to go into later. I'll also mention everything I'm about to say about sociocracy is a way of doing sociocracy. There's definitely, you can do it wrong and you can do it right, but there's loads of right ways to do it. And typically groups that are doing sociocracy well will make sure that it's fitting with the culture and the mode of what it is that they're doing, while also making sure that they understand why the pieces are there and which modifications might be functional and which might damage a part of what the process is. So let me just throw into the chat here that no objection, concern, and objection are the ways that people will frequently word that within sociocracy. I'm going to do a full screen share now for this next little bit. And give me a moment as I get back to where we would be here. There we go. So one of the pieces that's useful so just the overview of what sociocracy is, the core values behind it, and we can talk a bit about the history out of who we want to and kind of Gerard Endenberg and where it came from. But the core values behind it are effectiveness, equivalence, and transparency. And so for effectiveness, really, okay, my apologies if you're unable to read it well. It's okay to use it as just a note, but I'm not sure if you switch your view to speaker view, that may help because that'll zoom it in a little bit, but you don't need all of the details. I can share these slides afterwards with people if they want, but we can just use them as a little bit of a visual orientation as we're going. So again, for sociocracy, effectiveness is just getting the stuff done, getting it done well, getting it done efficiently and effectively. Sometimes, especially in communities that are used to operating by consensus, there can be a feeling that this is a key part of our community bonding that is happening. And sometimes I have been in communities where, those meetings can be 3 or 4 or 5 hours long talking about the different pieces, because it's also part of how that community bonding is happening. Community bonding happens within sociocracy, but really the aim is to be effective in what it is that you're doing, move through it so you can be spending your social time doing other ways of engaging. Equivalence, someone else may want to add onto that one, but my recollection from when I was doing sociocracy was that this really is that piece around equitability, that you're making sure there is equivalence in how everybody is able to participate. Unlike consensus, you don't usually have everybody participating in every decision, but you have modes by which the decisions are able to be engaged with by everybody in an equivalent way. And transparency, that it's really important, especially because you don't have everybody participating in every decision, that there's a lot of transparency about what's going on, what the decisions are that are upcoming, how the decisions are getting made, what the decisions were, so that all of the different circles within it know what each other is doing. Feel free if anyone wants to give any refinements, I think especially on equivalence, feel free to do that. 3 key parts of how sociocracy is working is a governance structure that uses consent decision making and has feedback loops that are kind of built into it. So in governance structure, we'll talk a bit about the circle structure that it uses. It uses sort of a fractal structure for how things tie together. And again, it uses this consent decision-making process, which is like consensus, but a little bit more free and easy. It's easier to experiment within consent, in part because you have these feedback loops that are there. Every proposal that comes forward has measurement built in of how are we going to assess whether this proposal was something that actually is meeting our needs, and has a timeline for when that's going to get reassessed. So where in consensus, you often have to feel like we've got to get it right this time because it's a nightmare if we have to reopen a decision to try to get consensus around again. With consent, the general feeling is it good enough to, safe enough to try? Is the key piece that's there, so that way you can experiment around that. Thanks, Kendall, for putting in that piece around transparency and equivalence are aided by having clarity around the defined roles, as well as an aim and domain for each circle. And we'll talk about that more in just a second. And yeah, good enough for now, safe enough to try is the phrase that's frequently used there. I'm just waiting for my slides to catch up there. So when I talk about circles as the basic structure that's there, you tend to have a general circle, which is meeting, and it can then come up with smaller circles that deal with things that are less abstract, things that are more fine-grained detail. So for a community, you might have finance, promotions, land use and site planning, membership. Each of those different circles are tied to the general circle, but each have their own distinct and well-defined aim for what's going on within those circles. Those circles can then choose to have subcircles if there's enough people and need. So a promotion circle might, for example, have a website circle and a newsletter circle. Land use and site planning might have utilities and building. And you only really generate those other circles if it feels like that's going to be expedient and useful to do. but you can keep on circling downwards, and you can also circle upwards, which we'll talk about maybe a top circle afterwards. But general circle is sort of where all of it comes together. Key here is that decisions that can get made within a different circle, within a given circle, you tend to give a high level of empowerment to that circle. So anything related to, say, utilities, the utilities circle generally can manage. As soon as the discussion reaches beyond the aim of just the utilities group, maybe there's a budget circle and the utilities group is wanting to do some repairs, and so budget also has to be brought in. So then you would bump up to the next lowest circle at which all of the appropriate aims are included in things. Lastly, for this part, I'll just mention there's a structure. Well, actually, I'll mention the roles first. So within each circle, you tend to have 4 roles that exist. You have a facilitator. It tends to be someone who is well versed in how sociocracy works and just keeps things on track and uses any times where things are beginning to veer out of the sociocratic mode as an opportunity to jump back into sociocracy and to teach that a little bit. You have a meeting manager who is making sure that the agendas are there, the minutes are there, that things are kind of recorded and easily accessible. You have an operational leader, which is someone who is chosen from the circle above, who is able to kind of make sure that what's going on within a given circle is aware of what's going on in the circle above it, if there's a circle above it. And when I say above, it doesn't mean in terms of power structure necessarily. It's just in terms of what the domain is that it's talking about. And you also have a representative. A representative is chosen by a given circle to represent that circle's interests and aims and needs and information upwards to the next circle. So this is what that might look like, is you would have both an operational leader and a representative within each of those different circles. And what that allows for is it's like your circulatory system, making sure that information is flowing one way, flowing the other, and kind of flowing both up and down through those different scopes. I'll talk really quickly about sociocratic elections. Sociocratic elections are kind of how are you choosing people for roles. We won't go into great detail, but essentially you review the role, what's the term length, what are the requirements, any desired characteristics that are there. People do ballots, and the ballots are, it's not an anonymous system. So typically people will say, I'm choosing so-and-so for this role, and here's why. You don't talk about why you're not choosing someone or about why you think somebody would be a bad fit for a role. You talk about what it is that makes you think somebody would be a great fit for the role. And then once everyone has had a chance to do that, you have a chance for people to go around and change who their nomination would be based off of what they've heard. Then the facilitator generally, there's then open discussion and questions. The facilitator then proposes a candidate. It doesn't necessarily even have to be the candidate who had the most people nominate them, but the facilitator listens to everything that's been said, suggests a person to go forward, and then you do a consent round to see, using those gestures and things that we talked about. For any consent round, I'll quickly mention also, let me know also if I'm going too fast. I know I'm kind of rattling through a bunch of different pieces here. But for a consent round, you tend to end with the person who is potentially being elected for a thing. They do get a say, but the dynamics are very different if you start or end with that person. Sometimes someone who wouldn't jump into a role decides to when they hear how much energy for them taking that role on in the community there is. Yeah, so there's loads more fun stuff to talk about there, but we'll move on from the election part. A key part of it is also proposal forming. You don't simply come with a fully formed proposal. First, you talk about the issue. You identify what are the dimensions that need to get figured out for the given problem. So it's kind of like, what are the blanks in the form rather than just filling in the form? You're figuring out what are the things we even need to think about. Once you consent to the completeness of that list of different dimensions that are relevant, then you generate proposal ideas in rounds. That might be a full proposal. More likely, it's a fragment of a proposal that someone might put forward. And then you find and elect some tuners who are going to work on pulling all of those fragments together and trying to make a coherent proposal out of them and to understand what the sort of will of the group is. Once that's been done, then you can do a consent round to see whether the different proposals that are there, it could be one or more, actually identify and address all of the different issues that are present for whatever the topic is under discussion. When that's done, you then move into your actual decision-making process where you present the proposal, you ask if there's any clarifying questions. So if it's a question like, did you think about such and such? It's probably not actually a clarifying question. It might be a concern. But just making sure people understand the proposal that's on the table, doing a very quick reaction round to how people think about it. So just like a sentence, a few words around that. And then based off of that, then probably moving into a consent round where people you're checking to see if people have reasoned objections. And so a reasoned objection is, does it conflict with the aim of this circle, or is it irrelevant? Like our circle isn't the one that should be deciding about this thing. Are there obvious flaws or important aspects that are left out? Not things that you can assume will get fleshed out later, but things that you really need to have figured out before you say yes or no. Unintended consequences, externalities that might be there based off of that proposal, especially regarding the circle's aim. Aspects that aren't well thought out or expressed in a way that's confusing and that need to be clarified and refined, or things that wouldn't let you carry out your tasks in the circle. If you're proposing a given date that might be there, then you need to make sure that it's one that people can actually attend, as an example. And then there's various ways of resolving the objections. I won't go into those, but there's a range of different creative ways that you can try to move through those objections to find the end proposal that's going to work well enough. The key thing being work well enough. Good enough for now, safe enough to try, with the understanding that it's an experiment and that you can then try again later or refine what it is that you've been doing with it. One other process that's part of that feedback circle that I talked about that's a key part of sociocracy is role improvement. So you often will have people will choose the person who's going to receive feedback will choose a couple of people from their own circle, maybe someone from a smaller circle who works with them, and someone who's facilitating. And then once you go over what the person's role is, you start from the person who is receiving the feedback. They talk about the positive aspects of their work in the role so far, and then the other people who are on that role feedback team give their input. The person mentions any improvements that they see that they could make in what they're doing, and then the team suggests any other feedback around improvements that might be there. The person summarizes these things that are going well in these improvements and proposes a plan for how to address the improvements that might be there. There's a consent round around that proposed set of approach to improvement. And then when is that going to get reviewed with people? And then it goes up to the next circle for consent. So that is a wildly fast review of some key aspects of sociocracy, but the key things there is that it's a way of making sure that everybody's able to participate, that it's effective and efficient, that it's transparent, and that there's good equivalence within the group. So we have I can maybe quickly take a question or two around that, but I also want to be respectful of the time for kind of the next events that are there. Let me open things up. I know that was rattling a bunch of things off at a high pace. I'll also mention that my trainer in sociocracy was Diana Leaf Christian, and that was coming from a pre-sociocracy 3.0 standpoint. So that again, there's a lot of evolution that's also been happening within the field, but also to say what's my own kind of lineage and all of that as well. Denise, go ahead. Okay. Great. Yeah, go ahead, Andra.
Yeah, really quick. Thank you so much, Daniel, for that introduction. That was really good to hear it in someone else's perspective. And yeah, I just want to say that I just yesterday finished a book about degrowth. I believe it's called Slow Down. And they talk about slowing down the decision-making process is so key to moving at the speed of nature and really slowing down the economy in all of the ways that we're looking at. And so, a lot of people look at consent-based decision-making or consensus-based decision-making as slow, but that's a good thing. It's really important that we slow down and hear the voices of everyone involved. So thank you for bringing that in, Daniel, and I just wanted to share that as well.
Thank you so much. Actually, I want to really underscore that because, of course, in consensus, that's also a key thing, and that people think of it as being slower, but because you actually have participation and so you have better buy-in as well as often better decisions, it means that you take more time before the decision, but then implementation tends to be quicker because people are on board. Whereas when you have a majority rules decision that gets made, it gets made really quickly, and then you have 49% of people grumbling and saying, well, I didn't like this stupid decision anyways, I'm not going to participate. And so it really, going fast by going slow is a key thing that it allows for. No, thanks for underscoring that, Andra. Next, I would like, let me that back over to there. Is we'll be having Ben lead us in some breakout groups for the next little bit of time. So I will, I'll turn things over to you, Ben. And also, Ben, do let me know the sizes that you want for those breakout rooms, and I'll get those set up for you.
Yeah, I'm going to apologize. I was not prepped to build out. I said I would be tech support, but I wasn't quite sure what that would mean. So bear with me here. I am grateful that I have my computer logged in here as well. I have not necessarily done this, so I have. If anybody is clear on how to do breakout rooms, that might be better than me struggling to go through this. This is kind of. I wasn't sure what my role was going to be, so I apologize.
No worries about it. I'm happy to set up the breakout rooms. Andrea, if you want to let us know, if you're still here, whether there's any specific topic or area that you wanted us to be focusing on, or how many breakout rooms you were looking for the 24 of us that are here.
Yeah, I think if we could do about groups of 6, that'd be great. And then focusing on the question, like, how do you bring consent-based decision making into groups? And maybe just sharing some of your experience with maybe sociocracy or pro-social, and doing some introductions with the people in the room. And we're going to go ahead and randomize the breakout groups this time, so you'll get automatically put into one. And yeah, thank you so much for hanging out and iterating with this. And if you have any suggestions for this process, do email me, and we can keep working on it over time.
Fantastic. Okay, so we're going to give people breakout rooms. I'll put the questions in there in just 1 second. And we're going to do that for about 15 minutes. So the questions are here. The groups will be coming in just a moment, and enjoy. Are opening all rooms now. Welcome, Robert. Did you just arrive? If so, I can let you know what we're up to and pop you into a room. You're muted.
I just arrived.
Okay, so we're just having a bit of conversation in groups. We just began about a moment ago around how do you bring consent-based decision-making or sociocracy or pro-social into your decision-making processes in your groups? What's people's experience with those various things? And this is just coming off of having done a little bit of an introduction and orientation around sociocracy. So if you're good, I'll throw you into room 4, where they're just beginning to discuss that and do introductions.
Feel free.
see if you're able to jump yourself into, oh no, actually here, I see where I do it. There we go. I'm still learning the ins and outs of the breakout rooms myself. Welcome back, everybody. We'll spend a little bit of time doing some report back. So does someone from group 1 want to tell us any harvest you have from what your group was discussing?
In case we didn't pay attention to the number, you might, oh, did we have to?
No, that's all right. Room 1 would have been the room that Anna, David, Denise, Kendall, and Mish were in.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I'll report. So varying degrees of experience with sociocracy and consensus-based decision making. Members of our group have experience organizing using maybe some different models. One member, I think David, has been using Acorn model, which is very similar, but it's like concentric circles, and is really interested in sharing more about that. And yeah, different sort of applications of governance people have experience in community. I recently took a course from Sociocracy for All, so it was really interesting to see the difference in some languaging that you were using for maybe like Sociocracy 3.0 and Sociocracy for All, because they have maybe a different lexicon, slightly different lexicon. But yeah, I shared a little bit about like my experience with sociocracy. I think it's a really great system. But I think what I've found to be true is it can be really taxing on volunteer groups, because it's kind of an intensive system. And I'm not sure if I have really great solutions for that other than like it's an investment. It takes, people willing to really try and put effort into maintaining it.
Yeah, thanks so much, Kendall. That's a really important point. Is that yeah, it's not something to just quickly jump into and use. It takes a bit of time to kind of get there. Great, and looking forward to hearing the rest of your insights around sociocracy for all as we keep talking sociocracy. Room 2, that would be Ben, Ellen, Gabe, Melanie, Nicole. If someone wants to take a couple of minutes just to share anything that you'd like to from your group.
Well, I'll jump in, but I'm a person who needs to step back more than I step forward. But so I try. I mean, I felt like that was a good weight. So yeah, we kind of explored. We had different various degrees of exposure to sociocracy formal. You know, we had some insights into just kind of what was said from the last room. It can be very tedious if it's not understood or, my words, part of the culture already. So to get up to running speed with it, when you don't, when you have a bunch, I mean, Kendall probably said it pretty well with as a volunteer group, if it's not already in practice, it's got an investment, a learning curve to it. And so, you know, it has a lot of great values and it has a lot of great solution, if you will, to some other problematic spaces of governance, but without people really knowing and understanding it. I think the thing that, as we were kind of all summing up, it takes really strong facilitation to be adaptable to the room, so to speak, given if you have lots of different varying degrees of experience, to avoid the pitfalls that slow it down and not make it, oh, I'm trying to remember what Gabe's words were for it. Effective.
Efficient. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So I think that's pretty much a good summation. Does anybody from our room want to add in and expand on that?
I think that was pretty good. And just time-wise, I want to make sure that we have time to kind of close out. I unfortunately have to jump right out at the end of the hour, but no, that was really rich. Room 3 was Brian, Heather, Jan, Will. Does someone from that room want to share any different insights that you had?
I'm happy to speak quickly just because I don't have any previous experience with these kind of governance structures, and I'm kind of new to like this whole space. But what is super encouraging to me is speaking with people like Pam and like Jan and like Jeff, who go way back with Joe, and just the integrity that suggests, because I keep coming up against that again and again, that people are holding themselves to this high standard, and it's really encouraging and exciting. So I'm just excited to learn and to kind of move with the flow and the pace that evolves with these governance structures.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Heather. In room 4, Andrea, Chloe, Isaiah, Julie, Robert, Scott. Does one of you want to share a little?
Yeah, I can report back. So I would say most of us came without experience, or with deep experience with antisocial decision making, and are really, really excited in learning more and taking some of these ideas back to those antisocial spaces, speaking for myself. We had one person, Julie, who hadn't practiced but had observed this and was really moved by the value of everyone having a chance to be heard and make decisions based on the wisdom of the collective. And was also really inspired by the impulse to slow decision making down, with the understanding that this speeds implementation up, because it is based on trust. The one person who did have a working mic and a robust experience with this was Scott, who was in a housing co-op in grad school that had been operating, he said, since 1948, based on exactly these principles. So it makes sociocracy before sociocracy. And talked about how seamless it was once you understood the process and learn how to make decisions in good faith. But he actually wasn't trained, experienced a kind of immersive education. And one of the things that he put on the table for us right at the end, so we didn't get to spend much time on it, is the sense that pulling that off today would seem very challenging, just because it requires people to relax enough and trust enough to cede a lot of authority and control. So I think that hesitation is also an invitation for us to take up. Yeah, thank you.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Chloe. Yeah, no, I'd love to hear more of your insights, Scott, from working in a group like that. I'll mention I'm also happy to jam with anyone around any of those pieces, having come from Windsong Co-housing, where in the 15 years that I was living there, we transitioned from consensus to sociocracy. Some of it elegantly, some of it inelegantly. So lots of the different bumps that are kind of happen along the way. Happy to share about. But thank you all. Really, really great to hear what was going on in those different groups. We'll just take a breath, take a moment to kind of celebrate all of the material that we have kind of gone over, the connections that we've been building, the amazing vibrancy that we're tuning into that's going on all through this area. And then we're just going to check in quickly around facilitation and presentation roles, both for next time and then maybe some content for the time after that. So first, just seeing if there's someone who would like to do a grounding practice for us next time around. No worries, Chloe. Enjoy. I'm more than happy to throw my hat in the ring for a grounding practice for next time, if that works. If someone else would like to, I'm also happy to seed that. But I'll throw myself there if no one is keen. For April 9th, if someone wanted to do a quick presentation around pro-social or meeting facilitation or other aspect of group dynamics, then that would be great. And I think that should actually say 15-minute presentation, not 10-minute, not 5-minute presentation.
Pro-social, please. I need more exposure.
Daniel, I didn't understand what that request was. You'd like someone to do a presentation, or you were going to do a presentation? I didn't get that.
This is for if somebody else would like to do a presentation for our meeting on April 9th, in the same way that I presented a bit on sociocracy today, whether there's someone else who would maybe like to present around social meeting facilitation or some element of group dynamics.
It's May 9th, right?
I believe that's for May 9th. Yep. And that'll be, if people can also email Andra if that sort of calls to you, and whether that's for that session or another one, then we can maybe get a roster of possibilities.
Raise your hand.
Great. Thank you.
I'd already talked with Andrea about doing something on land acknowledgements, but I can't do it next week, so I could do it on the May 9th.
Okay, fantastic. So yeah, so something on land acknowledgements from you, Jen. That would be great. Thank you. Does someone want to be tech support? Really, essentially, that's just making sure people are getting to the right places and helping out with Zoom. Julie? Wonderful. Okay, thanks, Julie. And would someone like to be sharing a poem or a short story at the when we close out next time around? Mish? Wonderful. Okay, so I'm just going to type those into the chat here so we have them. So Jan, not next time round, but 2 times we'll do something on land acknowledgement. For next time round, I'll do an opening. We'll have Mish share a story or a poem. And we will have Julie helping with tech support. Wonderful. And on that note, for our close, I'd like to turn things over to Nicole.
Great, thank you. Sorry, I had to switch to my phone because I have to go to a medical appointment right at the hour. So I hope everyone can hear me, but the poem I wanted to share is called Life Chant by Diane DePrima. And it's a little long, so I'll only read it once, but Cacophony of small birds at dawn, may it continue. Sticky monkey flowers on bare brown hills, may it continue. Bitter taste of early miner's lettuce, may it continue. Music on city streets in the summer nights, may it continue. Kids laughing on roofs, on stoops, on the beach, in the snow, may it continue. Triumphal shout of the newborn, may it continue. Deep silence of great rainforests, may it continue. Fine austerity of jungle peoples, may it continue. Rolling fuck of great whales in turquoise ocean, may it continue. Clumsy splash of pelican in smooth bays, may it continue. Astonished human eyeball squinting through eons at astonished nebulae who squint back, may it continue. Clean snow on the mountain, may it continue. Fierce eyes clear of the light of the aged, may it continue. Right of birth and of naming, may it continue. Right of instruction, may it continue. Rite of passage, may it continue. Love in the morning, love in the noon sun, love in the evening among crickets, may it continue. Long tales by fire, by window, in fog, in dusk on the mesa, may it continue. The night music, may it continue. Grunt of mating hippo, giraffe, foreplay for snow leopard, screeching of cats on the backyard fence, may it continue. Without police, may it continue. Without prisons, may it continue. Without hospitals, death medicine, flu and flu vaccine, may it continue. Without madhouses, marriage, high schools that are prisons, may it continue. Without empire, may it continue in sisterhood. May it continue through the wars to come. May it continue in brotherhood. May it continue though the earth seem lost. May it continue through exile and silence. May it continue with cunning and love. May it continue. As woman continues, may it continue. As breath continues, may it continue. As stars continue, may it continue. May the wind deal kindly with us. May the fire remember our names. May springs flow, rain fall again. May the land grow green. May it swallow our mistakes. We begin the work. May it continue. The great transmutation. May it continue. A new heaven and a new earth. May it continue. May it continue.
Thank you so much, Nicole. And with that, we are done for today. Thanks everybody for being here, and look forward to talking with you all here on the Regenerate Cascadia Telegram and all around.
Thank you.